Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blades and bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you all out there. Idle champions, you will say again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icewind, head out to Shelf or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys to slay. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you all out there. Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another Gaarawarr's Guide, the tutorial show, aka Saturday morning Gartoons. Hopefully you're enjoying your day. Today we're going to talk about Fleetswake. This is every time there's an event that starts, the tutorial show for the weekend is going to talk about events. Whatever event is going on and the champions in it. So today we're going to talk about Fleetswake Year 6. Which brings the return of Ariza and Desmond, and also the arrival of Solaak. So we're going to dive into all of that today. If you have questions, in the mod pod, grabbing all the questions today and chatting in chat is, and I'm making sure I'm pronouncing these as they're typed out and interpreting them correctly. My interpretation of today's mod is Mars. Hopefully you got that. They'll be grabbing the questions from chat. Please put question : like it says down there. Question : in front. That way they see it. They've got a thing that highlights it and lets them know, hey, this person asked a question, and then they can copy it. If you don't put that there, they may miss it because they're laughing at me. And yeah. So that's usually how it goes. All right, folks, we're going to dive in. Yes, question : like this, exactly like that, like Bunny Beast did, yes. There you go, folks. All right, folks, let's talk about Fleetswake, baby. Normally when you're playing the game, it looks something like this. You've got some campaigns available to you on the left banner, on the campaign banner, and then the game is trying to tell you that there are Trials adventures waiting for you. If you've unlocked Trials, it's probably doing that every time you open it because you forgot to run it like I did. I'll do it after the show. But when an event arrives, they move everything down, and right at the top they put the event because they're trying to tell you, hey, this is important. Events are time-limited features in Idle Champions. They're only available for about 12 days. 12 days. I wish it was 11 days. It would make so much more sense. But they're available for 12 days. They start on a Wednesday at noon Pacifically. They end on a Monday at noon Pacifically. So you get 12 days to do everything in the event. Events are the delivery system for new champions in the game. So whenever they want to introduce it, well, the primary delivery system, whenever they want to introduce a new champion, primarily they're going to do it like this. There are 17 events a year, so we're guaranteed to get 17 new champions in a year. They might throw us an extra champion or two as evergreen unlocks each year, but that's never a guarantee. So this is the way you're going to get brand new champions of the game. It's also the way you're going to stack your deck, as it were, with new champions. Because they will give you 3 champions in each event. If you are new to the game, they may very well be 3 you don't own. But just know that they're going to give you the brand new champion plus the 2 most recent. So for Fleetswake, like I said, Solaak is the brand new champion from Gabe Hicks. It's their creator. Last year's champion was Desmond. It was created by DJ Knight for the Black Dice Society streams. And then the champion before that, so year 4, because that's how math works, reverse math works, was Ariza, created by Christina Ariel for the Sirens of the Realm streams. So those are the 3 that are returning. There was a year 1, year 2, and year 3 champion. Those champions are now available only in time gates. The community refers to that as retired. You can still grab them, you can still use them, but you have to do a time gate. You can't get them in the event. And I believe, if my memory serves, and it might not, it usually doesn't, that's Sisaspia, Black Viper, and Zorbu. I think I'm right this time, though. Yeah. So those are time gate champions now, but they arrived with Fleetswake originally, which is why you'll see stuff. You'll see their achievements in the Fleetswake section, and you'll see, their names pop up and stuff, but you can't get them in the event. Okay. So we click on the event banner, and we'll see we're taken to a new kind of map with only one little node on it, and it's got the new pop-ups that tells you, hey, there's stuff that's other than gems that are available here. So this is telling us we can get chests for champions, and if you haven't unlocked the champions, it'll say you can get the champions there as well. You'll also there's a new kind of favor. Every event has its own favor, and then below the favor there is, this is Umberlee's favor for Fleetswake. That's what that symbol means. And then under that is the tokens that are associated with the event, which is a new thing that you may not have interacted with before. Tokens limit your ability to do event stuff. Everything that you do costs tokens. So in this way, they're kind of limiting your kind of what you can get. You can get all the champions, and you can do their stuff, but you can't get just unlimited amounts of gear for them, is basically the way it works. The tokens for this event are fresh fish. Again, it's Fleetswake. Umberlee is the goddess of the sea, so fresh fish are the tokens that are being used. So you'll start out with 0 favor, and then you have to earn your favor, just like any other campaign. These are kind of mini campaigns, but don't fret. Even though it's a campaign, it is a lot easier. Events are a lot easier to complete. The health on enemies is slightly reduced. The gold is slightly increased, and so you can push further usually in events than you can normally. So you can get through them fairly quickly. The thing they don't have are blessings, right? You can't convert your favor into power in an event. What you do with your favor first off is going to help you do things in the event. The difficulty ratings for things like the variants are solely based off favor, just like they are in the main game. So getting enough favor to make things show as green. Difficulty easy is the goal. Usually that's all 3 of them will show as easy by around E8 favor. We use scientific notation in this house. So anything above that is just going to make things super easy. But then when the event's over, you'll be able to convert your favor, use it as a multiplier into the main campaign of your choice. What that means is if you have, like I have E46 favor, if the event were to end today, I would get a, 460% multiplier into the main campaign, roughly. It converts it at basically 1% per EO1, more or less. So if you get E10 favor, you're going to get 100% multiplier against a main campaign. What does that mean? It means it looks at the campaign favor you have for, say, Sword Coast. Mine's E81, 735 E81. If I had E10 favor, I would get another 735 EA1, and it would get added to that, right? Multiply, I'm basically 100% times that, hey, and then it adds it to there, and I get the bonus. So it's nice little events can be great favor bonuses. Great favor bonuses. Yes, sorry, 10% per E, sorry. This is what happens when I try to do math on stream. 10% per E. So E10 favor would be 100% multiplier. 100% multiplier. Okay. Let's take a look here. So this is how you're going to see your events. At the top will be the oldest champion. So this is the year 4 champion, year 5, and then the brand new one, year 6 is at the bottom. Every champion is going to have an unlock mission plus 3 variants. It's always only going to be 3 variants. 3 is the magic number with idle champions. 3 variants is the max that you'll ever have, that we've ever had so far, and probably ever will, coming off of a regular adventure. So when you do these initial unlock adventures, there's no restrictions. You just have to get to area 50, and the reward down here will be the champion itself. Each champion's basically little version of the campaign is going to have a unique formation layout. So we get a chevron shape for Ariza. We get like a ball and chain for Desmond. I'm not sure exactly what this is, but you get the idea. And for Solaak, I don't know, maybe a dragon wing. It's probably a dragon wing. So each champion's going to have kind of a unique formation layout. That layout will either help or hinder you in pushing for favor in the event. You can do all of the champions, obviously variants, with any of the formation layouts that are provided. But if you're going to try to push for favor, it may be more beneficial for you to look to a formation that lends itself to your champion's strengths. Generally speaking, this chevron formation layout, not great to push super deep. This is much better for a 2-tank frontline because you get a lot of adjacencies, plus a little room for people to hang out by themselves for those that like that. AKA like Tyrell and Makos, who like to be alone in a corner. Yeah, so this one's pretty good if you want to use a double tank formation, which sometimes for newer players helps to distribute damage and let you push further. Single tank frontline with lots of adjacencies and some alone time space for people. Also good for people who have really durable tanks, like they have a single durable tank they want to use and then lots of buffers. So Solaak and Desmond, good for pushing deep. Maybe not so much Ariza. You can still get everything done in them, though. So let's talk about each of these champions and their variants. So when you're doing the first initial unlocks for the champions, if you haven't done them yet, you want to try to push them past 50. You want to try to get as much favor as you can. So that's earning gold. But, never hang out too long at your wall, like that place where you can't push anymore. 30 minutes is usually good, an hour at most, then reset, start a new run. Now, there are limiting factors to starting new runs and events. Again, as it says here, the first free play is going to cost you 500 fish. The second one's going to cost 500 more. It's going to be 1,000, then 1,500, then 2,000, then 2,500. It stops at 2,500. 2,500 is the max you'll pay for a free play in an event, which is a key important thing to note, because every time you run a free play, you are going to get for a specific champion. So this is for Ariza. You're going to get a random chest. It's either going to be a silver or a gold chest specifically for Ariza. This is how you get extra gear for champions. So running this over and over, just completing area 50, so killing the boss on 50, getting the chest drop, then starting a new run, that when you close it, that's going to get you a chest for Ariza or Desmond or Solaak. This is how you get extra gear during an event. Going past 50 doesn't get you anything extra, so except favor. Early on, like I said, early on, you're going to want to push deep for favor on these on adventures and free plays. And that way you can try to get your favor up. Once you have everything showing as green, you can then just start doing all the variants and then trying to burn any and all tokens you have, just trying to get as much gear as possible. Okay, it is important to note that the fish are caught once every 25 seconds. That's the way event tokens work. As long as you're killing things in a campaign, you're going to be earning. You'll see it. Well, if this was a lower number, you'd see it's not going up. But once I get into an adventure, it's going to catch up and it's to whatever one every 25 seconds would have been. That's the way it delivers it. There's no way to speed up that clock. There, you can have multiple groups running. It doesn't matter. You're getting one per account every 25 seconds. You can get extras like this number I have up here by opening bounty contracts. Bounty contracts are earned through opening a variety of different chests in the game. There's different sizes, white, green, blue, and purple bounty contracts. They drop time-based rewards, and while an event is active, that means bounty contracts will drop the tokens, so fresh fish. That is the only way you can get extra tokens during an event. It's kind of key to getting lots of gear. I have lots of chests, so we're going to open for a bit and for Solaak, and you will see that this is the way. This is the way to do it. Just get lots of bounty contracts, open them, run lots of free plays to 50, get lots of gear. Okay, let's talk about each of the variants. There's always going to be 3 variants, and what they're going to get progressively more difficult, usually. That is usually the expectation. The first one, the completion area is 75. The second one, it's 125. The third is 175. Usually, the 175 one's going to be the hardest one. Just because you're going to have to go further with these restrictions that you're dealing with. That is not always true, but normally that's how it works. You're going to want to, even with the difficulty green easy note, you're going to want to read the restriction to make sure this is something you can do. So for Unberlee's Abyssal Adventure, abyssal crabs appear in each area. They do not drop gold, nor do they count towards quest progress. This is what I like to call a swarm variant. They're basically just trying to rush lots of enemies at you to keep you busy, and maybe get some through to your tank line, right? Enemies deal 200% additional damage, so when they do get to that tank line, they're going to hit a little harder. Only champions with the support tag can be used. So basically, they're like, well, hashtag all supports, which is fine. This isn't a problem. I know some people are like, well, but how am I going to kill them? Let's talk about Hitch. No, this is an Ariza adventure, so use Ariza. There are a lot of DPS champions out there that have DPS tags and also have support tags, like Ariza. You can use Ariza as your DPS for this. This is kind of what they're trying to aim for. Even if you don't have a lot of gear or any gear at all for her yet, she can still hop in and do stuff, as long as, again, you want to make sure it shows as easy so that you can upgrade her to get her some damage. But if for some reason she's not working, Hitch. Hitch is a evergreen champion that you get from the newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter, get Hitch. Get hitched today in Idle Champions. So this one's pretty straightforward. As long, Ariza has multi-attacks. We're going to talk about that, so she can clean out these extra crabs, and you should be able to, progress just fine. Again, any of these statements I'm making are as long as this shows is easy. Volo's Guide to Umberlee. First off, Volo's a hack. Second, this adventure variant. It brings Volo into your party. That's what this red X in the party means. Basically, an NPC version of Volo is going to be escorting your party along, but not doing anything, and usually hindering things. Volo's a hack. So yes, Volo joins the formation. Only champions adjacent to Volo deal damage. There it is. Champions not adjacent to Volo deal no damage, but their formation abilities are still active. So this means that only your DPS needs to be somewhere in one of these 5 locations adjacent to Volo. This is fine. Usually this is where your DPS are anyway, in most cases. So it's not a super big restriction. The restriction is that you're down 1 champion. So you only have 9. And it's just going to be a little slower because the 2 champions in the back and the 2 in the front aren't going to be killing anything early on. So a little bit slower progress and a little bit lower general overall buffs to your party, but you should still be fine. Siren Soundcheck. A collection of bards that were rejected at the last Sirens of the Realms audition are back for revenge. Folks, let it go if you get rejected. It's okay. Each area, 3 bards appear. Each of them have a unique effect that is active while they're alive. The Dwergar, if it's a Dwergar, enemies deal 300% additional damage. If it's an elf, enemies move 200% faster. If it's a goblin, champions' normal attack cooldowns are increased by a half a second. And non-bard champions that you have placed in your formation have their damage reduced by 99%. So again, they're trying to get you to use Ariza. They're trying to get you to use Ariza DPS. Ariza's a bard. Spoiler alert. So again, this is a bit of a kind of a bit of a swarm variant, except they're going to have lots of things that are going to scare you and do lots of damage. You definitely want this one to show as green before you do it. You're going to need the damage out of Ariza. All right, let's move on to Desmond's variants. Full Moon Madness. This is another. There's a Q here in the formation layout that something is very specific here. There's a C right in the middle. This means that the champion is in the formation in this spot. So Desmond's joining the formation. He can't be moved or removed from the formation. This is where he is. So in non-boss areas, each wave creates an extra 3 to 5 random sailors. They do not drop gold nor count towards quest progress. So again, a bit of a swarm variant. So Desmond has the ability to speed up other champions' attacks. We'll talk about Desmond shortly. So that's why they want you to put. That's why they're putting him in the middle, and then your DPS wants to be adjacent to them. And outside of that, this really isn't a restriction. It's just a hey, let's teach you how to use Desmond type of situation. New Moon Nemesis, again, Desmond right in that, locked into the formation in that same spot. In non-boss areas, each wave spawns 1 additional armored crab with 10 armored HP. We'll talk about that in a second. It does not drop gold or count towards quest progress. Every time a crab spawns, a random champion is stunned until it's defeated. So armored enemies have segmented health. So you'll see that instead of just one long health bar filled with a color, there's these little divided lines in it. This has 10 armored HP, so it's going to have, it's probably going to have 5 yellow segments. And as you chunk each one of those off, it's going to reveal red segments underneath. They do 2 layers for armor usually. Armor requires you to do a minimum amount of damage to remove a single chunk. So it doesn't matter how much damage you do with a single hit. If it's above the threshold, it will only remove 1 chunk. So this is a kind of a system that they put into the game to make it so that you're not just building glass cannon formations. You're building formations that both do damage and can survive. Because most likely it's going to take a little while to work through that armored HP. Now, you can take off multiple chunks with someone like Ariza. Ariza has multiple attacks when she fires off her base attack. So each of those attacks will hit, and as long as they have the right amount of damage, they will remove a section of that health. So use a multi-attacker here like Ariza, like Ashara, like Hitch. These champions will remove multiple health things. You'll be through this a little quicker. The problem is going to be if the crab spawns and it stuns your DPS. That's a problem. You might have to back up and redo the level. So this may be a variant that you have to keep an eye on. Just know that. Strength to persevere. Boy, that's a lot of red X's in that formation layout. No, this doesn't mean that you don't get to place any champions. What it means is that as you push further, you're going to lose formation slots. And you could potentially lose all of them. Now, you won't lose all of them. We'll read the rules in a minute. You won't lose all of them by the time you get to the completion area, but it does mean you're not going to be able to go super deep in this because you'll run out of champions. Okay, only champions with a strength of 16 or higher may be used. This is an important stat when it comes to certain champions, but Desmond's a strong boy. He wants strong people with him on this run. So this is going to be fairly restrictive for you if you were a newer player. You might not have a lot of champions in here. That's okay. Because Desmond has an ability where you don't necessarily need a full formation as long as you have escorts or dead champions, but we'll get to that part. This situation is going to create escorts. That's what the NPCs are. They're referred to as escorts. So Desmond's going to be buffing your formation by a lot based off these escorts. So this is kind of done on purpose. So even though it's a high strength requirement, you just need to get through the early levels with whatever champions you can field, and then the later levels, the buffs from the escorts via Desmond are going to help you. So a werewolf starts in the formation. An additional, so right away you're only going to be able to put max of 9 champions in the formation. An additional werewolf joins the formation every 50 areas. So you start off with 1 at 50. You'll have at 51 you'll have 2. At 101 you'll have 3. At 151 you're going to have 4 NPCs in the formation. So in a 10 character, 4 plus Desmond. Please use Desmond for this. That's the whole point. 4 plus Desmond is 5, so you just need 5 other champions. Desmond plus 5, and you should be able to get through this because, again, those werewolves are going to give Desmond a very big buff for your party. So, yeah, it should be good. Again, make sure it shows as green. If you're a little worried about it, get more favor. Favor is the stick that you beat things with in this game for events. For events, specifically. The more favor you have, the easier event runs are going to be. Okay, Solaak. Solaak's variants. If you'll note, I forgot to talk about the costs. For the older champions, you have a discounted cost. So the first variant's going to be $250, the second's going to be $625, and the third is going to be $1250. The newest champion's always going to be full price. So 1,000 fish to do the first variant. 2,500 to do the second, 5,000 for the third. This is why I recommend that these show as green before you try them, because the second you start it, you pay this price, and if you can't do it, you lose that, and you have to pay it again some other time, and this could go towards getting you more gear. So trying to help you be a little efficient with your spending. Make sure you can do them before you try them. Use these tips to get through it. All right. On the Wings of Dragons, Solaak, Tempest, and Levitz. We'll explain why there's 3 names here once we talk about the champions. Join the formation. Levitz can be moved but not removed. So basically, you have to use Solaak. Is the TLDR. You may only use champions with a dex of 13 or higher. Don't worry, there are a lot. Even for a new player, there are a lot of dex 13 or higher champions just in the core champion list. So not a big deal. So this is just basically, hey, we're going to get to use. You're going to get introduced to Solaak. Enjoy. It shouldn't be that difficult. I haven't done these yet. I may do these while we're doing the Q&A portion of the stream. Just so you can see, we'll probably do this one because it's got a big thing in it. All right, slings and arrows. Once again, Solaak, Tempest, and Levitz join the formation. They can be moved but not removed. All of these are, hey, it's time to learn how to use Solaak. The base attack cooldowns of champions with magic and melee base attacks are increased by 10 seconds. This is their way of saying, hey, maybe use ranged attackers in your formation. Now, that doesn't mean you only have to use them, but you're definitely going to want to use a ranged attacker as your DPS. But otherwise, your DPS is only going to fire off on whatever their normal rotation is, plus 10 seconds. So maybe only 4 attacks in a minute. That's going to be slow going. So try to make sure at least your DPS has a ranged attack. There aren't any of those in the core champions. However, remember Hitch? Remember I was talking about Hitch earlier and that you should get Hitched? Hitch starts off with a dagger attack, but then as levels up starts off with a stab attack. But as they level up, they add thrown daggers to their attack. They become a ranged champion. Hitch can help you through this as a DPS, folks. I know it says he's a support champion. There are a very few members of what we call the super secret DPS club, and Hitch is one of them. They are supports who actually only have the support tag, but they do lots of damage for some reason. Use Hitch. A scaly companion. So once again, you got to use Solaak. A bronze dragon joins the formation as an escort. It takes up 3 spots in the formation, but doesn't do much else. So it's going to be sitting right here, and you're going to have to build your formation around it. Solaak, we're going to talk about in a moment. Solaak has an ability like Desmond, where when you have escorts, they give buffs. Solaak will buff. So this is them showing you, hey, Solaak's great in escort missions. So you know we'll do this one for sure on stream later, just so you can see. All right, let's hop into a free play here, and we will talk about each of the champions. Let's get them out of the way. Throw some familiars out, so I don't have to deal with them. All right, Ariza. First up, slot 11. Slot 11. Let's throw them up here. And then Desmond is in slot 4. Here's Desmond. I should take this out just so we slow down a little bit. All right. There's Desmond. And then Solaak is in, our newest champion is in slot 2. Now, I'm just going to say right now, you can already see Solaak's a little different. Solaak is the person riding the dragon in the back of the formation, folks. Solaak is riding the dragon in the back of the formation. The dragon's name is Tempest, and this little pseudo-dragon is what you actually move around in the formation as Solaak's formation placement. That's the aforementioned Levitts. That's Levitts. So this is the first time they've ever done anything like this. So this is a unique situation where you get like a familiar in the party for placement, and the champion's actually somewhere else. See, they're linked by a little bubbly line, and they will follow them. Okay. Let's talk about Ariza. Yes, that is the way you pronounce her name. Ariza is an Aasimar cleric bard. Again, as we talked about earlier, both DPS and support can be either or both. Member of the Scions of the Realms affiliation. Their base attack is Scorching Ray. Scorching Ray. So Ariza summons rays of fire and hurls them at multiple random targets. She starts off with like 3, but as she levels up, she gets more. So you can get, I think, up to 6 normally and 7 with a specialization. So she has a solid multi-attack as you level her up. We're already up to the ultimate. So the ultimate is Radiant Soul. Let's go ahead and talk about that since we're already there. Ariza's eyes light a glow and 2 angel wings burst from her back. A wave of divine energy surges across the screen, damaging all enemies. I just forgot I have her in her pirate skin. Let's get her in her regular skin. There we go. This is what Ariza would normally look like. And here's what the ultimate looks like. Boom! Angel wings, and she kind of goes into Super Saiyan mode. So we're going to see some more effects based off the ultimate as we level her up, but that's what it looks like with the wings. They're going to stay there for a while. So, Flaming Wings. Here we go. Whenever Ariza uses Radiant Soul, her angel wings burst aflame, and Flaming Wings gains 30 stacks. The stacks decay by 1 per second. The damage of Scorching Ray is increased by a percentage, a varying percentage, plus an additional % for every stack remaining. So this is an on-demand damage boost when you hit her ultimate, once you have her upgraded to have Flaming Wings. But it decays over time, so you're going to get the most amount of damage right when you hit it. At 0 stacks, her wings and damage bonus are removed. Whenever Ariza gets a kill, the stacks reset to 30. So if right when you hit it, she's doing enough damage to kill things, she's going to sit and stay at 30 as long as she's killing things. But she'll start decaying faster in between those attacks. So the decay rate is increased by 20% multiplicatively every time she resets. So she can't sit and stay at that high damage rate forever, but she can linger there for a little bit. First set of specializations, she can go Blazing Solar Long Burn. So she can either increase the effect of Flaming Wings by 200%, so raise that damage bonus, or you can start Flaming Wings with 50% more stacks. So instead of 30 stacks, you could have 45. This would mean the duration is going to last longer, just to have the bonus active. You're also going to get some more damage from that percentage bonus per stack. So depending on what your damage bonuses look like, Long Burn may give you more of a damage boost when you hit the ultimate. But if you don't have a lot of gear, or, if you're using a brand new, you don't have a lot of gear, the triple damage is going to be where it's at. But over time, Long Burn is going to be real nice for you. She does have a second set of specializations. We'll talk about that in a moment. Bardic Connection. So this is kind of her affiliation feature. Part of it. Bardic Connection. Arises seeks out Vlanya in the formation. Vlanya is another member of Silence of the Realms. And increases the damage of champions along the shortest path or paths between herself and Vlanya by an amount. Hold on. 8. No, yes, there we go. Okay, so if I have Vlanya all the way back here, it's going to read this path between the two of them and do that buff. So increase the damage of champions along the shortest path. So it would buff everyone in this top set of columns through here. Anybody placed up here would get that buff. Okay. Now, if I placed her here, anybody in this path and in this path would receive the buff because they're the same distance. They're both 2. Okay, so placement when using them both together is based off building these paths, and you're buffing along the shortest path. Okay. Now, if Vlanya isn't in the formation, because you may not have her yet, or you may not want to use her in a given situation, Ariza just buffs the damage of herself and adjacent champions by an amount. So this is more of her, just kind of, it turns it into a self buff, but it's a smaller an amount, and it would buff adjacent, so it would buff Desmond next to her instead of along this path. So keep that in mind. Bardic Connection is going to function differently based off whether Vlanya is in the formation or not. Okay, next set of specializations works off Bardic Connection. So Siren's Connection or Fierce Connection. Siren's Connection, the effect of Bardic Connection is increased by 200%. So this is just kind of the straight up, hey, grab 200%. Vlanya's not in the formation, just boost Bardic Connection. Fierce Connection is based off Vlanya, so this one you're only going to pick, really, usually if Vlanya's in the formation. Usually. Ariza's damage is increased by 200% for each champion affected by Bardic Connection. Vlanya's enthralling performance buff always applies to Ariza, and Ariza counts as adjacent to her for the base portion. So there is a bonus for one of Vlanya's buffs. So this could be good for you, Fierce Connection. If you have if you have more than one person adjacent to Ariza, you might whether you have Vlanya or not, maybe you want to go that way. But this is just a straight up buff, so you can pick whatever you want. It's going to be formation layout dependent on where Ariza is placed. I will just pick this one, just for example purposes. Okay. Diva mode. So this is the boss killing ability. When there is a boss monster on the screen, Ariza's Flaming Wings and Bardic Connection abilities are increased by 1%. So when there's a boss on the screen, you want to pop, like Bardic Connection is going to go up automatically, but then you want to pop Flaming Wings. This is whether she's the DPS or not, because it's going to boost both Flaming Wings and Bardic Connection. You want to do that. You want to do that. That's only going to be queued off on boss levels, though. That is all for Ariza in terms of her base abilities. Item-wise, because she is DPS and support, she gets a self-damage item, and she gets a damage all champions item, so one of each. Then she's going to buff Flaming Wings and Bardic Connection and Diva Mode. Because her ultimate attack itself doesn't do damage. It boosts her. You just get an ultimate cooldown reduction. So decently efficient itemization paths here. Just know that this item only matters against bosses. Okay. Feat-wise, damage all champions, self-damage. You do get... oh, that's where she gets the extra attack. Sorry, I thought it was a specialization. No, she has a feat to give you an additional attack for her Scorching Rays. That's my mistake. She can do Flaming Wings. She can do Bardic Connection. She can do Diva Mode. So there's feats for all the things with Ariza. She's got a pretty good spread of feat options. Next up, Desmond. Desmond joins us from the Black Dice Society streams. They are a full formation in the game. Every member is currently in the game. Desmond is a human ranger, chaotic good, pure support. Desmond's attacks are going to change based off what's going on the screen. Right now, their base attack, kind of their default base attack, is a ranged attack. I know they're holding a pair of swords. There's a crossbow on their back, I swear. Desmond shoots the closest enemy with his hand crossbow, knocking them back a bit. This is a nice interaction. It's going to interact with Solaak well. So if enemies get up around in this range, so to the left of the familiars, Desmond's attack will switch to a melee attack. He will jump out with the swords and he will take a swing with each. Each one will do damage. Each counts as a hit. Okay, so he will get a double hit melee when enemies get close to the formation. First ability, Noble Heart. This increases the damage of champions adjacent to Desmond by a %. The % varies. I don't read off the % because it's going to vary based off how far you've upgraded them, what their gear's like, what their feats are like, in a lot of cases. So it's good. This is kind of the main buff of Desmond. So this is a Q that you want your DPS adjacent to Desmond in the same way that you want your DPS adjacent to Ariza if you're using as your support. Howl at the Moon. Desmond synergizes with the moon phases, reducing the attack cooldown of himself and adjacent champions. The closer to the full moon, the more the cooldown is reduced. At the start of each full moon, Desmond's ultimate cooldown fully resets. So here's the full moon. I'm going to pop... no, well, we're not to his ultimate yet. Never mind. So you can see the full moon phases. They're really well... or the moon phases. They're really well designed. They're pretty clear. So he's almost to a full moon. I don't have his ultimate available, so I can't pop it. Oh, it was just at a full moon. Never mind. So he's moving through the phases. Now we're at a half moon, etc., etc. I would want to place Desmond right next to a DPS. That DPS is then going to attack faster. You see 4.5 second cooldown. Now we're at a 4.31 second cooldown. It will adjust automatically as he shifts through the phases of the moon. It has different values for different phases. Keep that in mind. There's no moon. Yeah. So now we're down to 4.5. We're back to normal. Once it kicks into another phase, it will reduce again. So it's going to shift. The bonuses he gives shift based off the phase of the moon. Devotion in dark times. The dark side of the moon increases the effect of Noble Heart, dependent on how close the new moon is. So right now, he would be giving a much bigger buff because there's more of the dark side of the moon showing. Buff to damage. So when there's a lot of no moon showing, you're getting a higher damage buff. When there's a lot of moon showing, you get a higher attack speed buff. Specializations. First off, we can do double time. This means the moon cycle of Howl at the Moon is twice as fast, so it's going to move through them quickly. Cycle through them very quickly. This recharges Desmond's ultimate attack more often because it can reset based off the phases of the moon. Embrace the Beast. This additively increases the base attack cooldown reduction that Desmond's Howl at the Moon provides by a half a second. In addition, the full moon of Howl at the Moon takes 30 seconds, while the new and crescent moons only take 10 seconds. So what happens is it moves you faster through the phases of the moon that don't give a lot of attack cooldown, and lets you linger in the phase of the moon that gives lots of attack cooldown while also buffing that attack cooldown. So if you want, if you're just going for attack speed bonuses, if that's what you want out of Desmond, embrace the beast. Strength in numbers does the opposite. It buffs devotion in dark times. So 100% additive buff to the damage. It sits at 30 seconds in the damage phase, 10 seconds in each of the non-high damage phases. So this strength in numbers lets you linger in the attack damage portion longer. This tends to be where I go. I'll be honest, I don't use double time at all. Because I usually just want to sit in that damage phase longer. There's an argument for this where you rotate through all of the phases fast and whatever, but I tend to go strength in numbers for the bonuses, just the straight up bonuses for damage, for pushing. But there would be reasons to use any of those. It's situational. Ultimate attack. So his ultimate is right here. Unleash the beast. Desmond transforms into his werewolf form. You should have known based off the descriptions of the abilities, right, folks? Leaps at the enemy with the most hit points. He swipes with both claws, then bites them. That's 3 attacks. Then returns to the formation and back to human form. Noble Heart gets a 300% increase for 30 seconds. So this is, again, an ultimate that is on-demand damage boost. You're going to get a 30-second damage boost for Noble Heart when you hit this. Now, again, it is based, the cooldown is going to be based in part on when the new moon comes up. If you know your phases and you know you're going to be in there very quickly, you can pop this. It's going to last for 30 seconds. This says 120-second cooldown. I'm going to wait for the phase to change. Okay, I'm going to pop this now. There he goes. Werewolf boy comes back. Now, as you'll see, it only says my cooldown was like 5 seconds. That's because that's how long it was going to take to get to the full moon. Now I get his ultimate back. So just because it says 120-second cooldown doesn't mean that's how long it's going to take. See, now we have like 2 minutes that we're going to have to wait for the phase of the moon to go through. This isn't necessarily, don't necessarily read the cooldown here to know how long his ultimate's going to take. It really is just purely dependent on the phases of the moon. If you want that on-demand damage boost more often, so you're playing more actively, or you've got familiars on this, that's when you go with that left specialization. That's when you go with the left specialization. Okay, running with the pack. This increases the effect of Noble Heart on lycanthropes, druids, and Black Dice Society champions by a percentage. Obviously this is meant primarily for the Black Dice Society. There's a couple DPS in there. You can use that to boost either of them. Druid DPS, Grama in Swamp Spec? That might be it right now. That's the main one that isn't part of, that wouldn't, like, again, Black Dice Society already counts. And then we're going to talk about lycanthropes. And yes, as Foolish Genius 89 says in chat, and here's Gar complaining about the word lycanthrope again, every time. Every time. Look, folks, the word lycanthrope, is designating a wolf. This means werewolves. Except in Idle Champions, where it means any shapeshifter. Any kind of shapeshifter. Oh, people pointing out Jaheira's a druid. Thank you, folks. So Jaheira, DPS. Desmond works with Jaheira as well. Thank you. Maybe Yorvin? I don't remember. So just you watch your tags. There are some champions out there that are going to be affected by druid. There is only one there's only one lycanthrope DPS in the game currently. And that's Azaka. So Desmond currently buffs Azaka as a lycanthrope. Because lycanthrope, these are the were folk. Azaka is a were tiger. Desmond is a werewolf, but it's not a DPS, so this doesn't mean anything for Desmond. I mean, it does buff his damage, or it would. But just know that if they are a were something, the Desmond will buff them by an additional amount. But it doesn't work for people who wild shape. So this doesn't work for like Yorvin or Tyrell. That's not what they're talking about. Specifically, Werefolk. Lament the Lost. This is the last buff, and it's the biggest one. This is the major buff for Desmond. This is what makes Desmond, what gives Desmond really his niche in the game, and it is a very he shows up very well for this. Lament the Lost. Desmond increases the damage of all champions by a large percent, stacking multiplicatively. That's a good way. For each slot in the formation that contains either a dead champion or an escort character and object. Okay? So dead champions can literally mean dead, like they died. Maybe they got over, your tank got overrun. But there's also champions who count as dead, even though they're active in the formation. These are champions like Spurt or Voronika, like just for examples. Blushi, when she's in her spirit form. So you can combine an escort mission that has lots of escorts in it with some dead champions and really just shoot this ability through the moon, as it were. I went there. This can be a very big bonus. Very, very big. So this is really, whenever you see that you're going to be dealing with escorts, you want to see if Desmond, in a variant, you want to see if Desmond's available, because he's going to help out a lot. Items. Para damage all champions items because they're support. Noble Heart buff, running with the pack buff. Lament the Lost. So this is the good one. Like if you're like, well, what item should I get? Should I be gilding? Lament the Lost, right? And then ultimate attack damage item, because again, they don't need a cooldown reduction. One, because it's controlled by the phases of the moon. Feat wise, damage all champions, and they have like stuff for everything. So here's one that just increases the base attack cooldown reduction from Howl at the Moon by another 0.2 seconds. If you're going all in on attack speed reduction. Here's Devotion to Dark Times, Noble Heart. We got Running with the Pack. We've got Lament the Lost. This is what I usually use Desmond for, so I go straight to there. They have a wide variety of feats once again for your usage. And let's talk about Solaak. Solaak, Kalishtar, Drake Warden Ranger. The Drake Warden part isn't in here, but that is what they are, as you can see right here with their level 0 ability. Neutral Good Support. No affiliation. Solaak was created specifically for Idle Champions in coordination with Gabe Hicks, and is part of Idle Champions Presents Fury of the Black Rose. That's the live play that's going on right now. So this is the first time we've ever had a champion arrive in the game that was literally created for Idle Champions Presents, effectively, and for the game, but not be in another stream or be some kind of lore character or something, and not just be a CNE original. So this, this is neat. I like it. Basic attack is ranged, and it's a knockback strike. Solaak fires an arrow at the closest enemy, dealing damage and knocking it back a short distance. Their ultimate is Tempest. Solaak flies over the enemies on Tempest's back, while Tempest breathes lightning on the enemies below, dealing damage, stunning, and knocking them back. Here we go. Anytime now. There you go. There we go. And then they're back into the back of the formation. That's what the ultimate looks like. As you can already tell, lots of knockbacks. That's key here for Solaak. Level 0, Drake Warden. Level 0 means this ability functions whether they're in the formation or not. So it's a trigger that we'll see in some champions, just so that you know that this feature is always functional, and it's just a core part of how they work. So, Solaak's pet pseudo-dragon Levitz takes Solaak's slot in the formation, while Solaak rides his Drake companion Tempest into battle. He attacks from Tempest. If Levitz is knocked out by enemies, Solaak and Tempest retreat from the battlefield until you change areas. I do want to point out, Tempest gets called a Drake here, but over here they get called a Dragon. They're a Drake Warden. They're somewhere in there, folks. Let's not be pedantic about what is and isn't a Dragon or a Drake. Let's just accept that this is what they're saying it is. So this is what we were talking about earlier. Levits, when you put them in, this is how it works. Levits is who you move around. Tempest and Solaak are in the back. Solaak's the champion. Tempest is their companion, and Levits is the familiar. Pseudo-dragon. All right, compatriots. Solaak gains a reach stack for each champion with a ranged base attack in the formation. Each stack increases the damage of these champions by 400%, stacking multiplicatively. That's a good way. So Solaak wants to be in a formation that have ranged attacking champions. I've seen some comments, questions saying, why does this not work for magical ranged attacks? I want to clear up. In this game, there is no such mechanic as a magical ranged attack. A base attack can only be one of three things. It can be a melee attack, it can be a ranged attack, or it can be a magic attack. Okay? The arrow symbol here signifies ranged attack. Ranged attack. The sword, melee. Okay? When we come to Arise, this little magic ball, that's magic. That's magic. So all magic attacks, whether they're melee or ranged, are going to just be called magical attacks. When it's calling out a ranged attack specifically, it means a base attack with this arrow symbol. With this arrow symbol. So we're looking for this. We're looking for this. So Desmond would qualify as a ranged attacker as long as enemies are on the right-hand side of the screen for Solaak. But Ariza never would. It doesn't matter that her Scorching Rays are ranged magical attacks. She is not a ranged base attack champion in terms of mechanics in the game. She is a magical champion. Just want to clarify that so that you know what you're looking at when you're trying to build around compatriots. So right now we have 2 stacks. We have 2 stacks for compatriots. Maneuvers. The effect of compatriots is increased by 25% each time an enemy is knocked back. Remember, Solaak does this with their base attack. Tempest does it with the ultimate to everything on screen. Stacking multiplicatively to a max of 50 stacks. Again, multiplicative is the good way, so this is a great ability. Stacks reset when you change an area. So you would stack, this is for use when you're sitting on a single area trying to kill things. If you're not killing them instantly, you're getting those knockbacks and you're stacking up damage boosts that are just going to make compatriots even better. And again, compatriots is that ranged bonus. Yeah. Now remember, the compatriots only buffs ranged attackers as well. Remember, so each stack increases the damage of these champions. That means champions with a ranged base attack. So Ariza DPS does not work with Solaak, because Solaak doesn't buff Ariza. Solaak would only buff champions that have a ranged base attack. Critical Mass. Solaak increases the effect of the outgoing positional formation abilities of all champions with a ranged base attack. So once again, Solaak is all about ranged base attacks. By 25% for each reach stack he has, stacking additively. So this one isn't as big of a boost, but it is still a bonus and it is still a nice bonus because ideally you're building a formation with lots of ranged base attackers, even with supports. And those supports have positional formation abilities. A positional formation ability is something that says like buffs adjacent champions. So Critical Mass would work with Desmond, and because as we said, Desmond buffs adjacent champions. That's a positional formation ability. Okay. Blitzing Barrage. Each time a champion with a ranged base attack attacks, there's a 5% chance per stack of reach that their base attack cooldown is instantly reset. So this is just, hey, if you're a ranged attacker, I might make you attack faster. You're just going to get a free attack every now and then. And the more ranged attackers you have in the formation, the higher chance is that everybody's going to be attacking a lot more often. So some interesting attack resets here. Interesting attack resets here. Specializations. Unwavering, emboldened, or confidant. Not confident. Confidant. Confidant. So unwavering. Solaak's base attack speed is reduced by 2 seconds. So that means they're going to be doing those knockbacks more often. Additionally, the effect of maneuvers is increased by 30% per stack. So this is if you're just focusing on those knockbacks, and you want to make sure you're maxing those knockbacks all the time. All the time. Max the boosts from the knockbacks, send out lots of knockbacks from Solaak. You go unwavering. Emboldened. Solaak's normal attack deals damage to all enemies in a small radius. So this turns that single target attack into an AoE. Now, remember, Solaak's base attack has a knockback. So this means you're going to be AoE knockbacking. Right? All enemies hit take an additional 400% damage for 5 seconds. So along with that AoE knockback, you get an AoE debuff. So all the enemies that you hit are going to take increased damage from all sources. Not just Solaak. All sources for 5 seconds. Okay. So if you're okay with the base bonus for maneuvers, and you're doing deep pushes where you end up with lots of enemies on your front line, this is going to AoE knock back them all, max out maneuvers, keep it maxed out, and do a damage boost, a nice debuff. All right. Confidant. Each formation slot occupied by an escort adds 1 reach stack for compatriots. So if you're dealing with lots of escorts or lots of slots taken up by escorts, Confidant might be the way to go, because you're going to get free. They're all going to act as if they're ranged attackers for reach. So you're going to get lots of boosts on top of their ability we're going to talk about in a moment that boosts for escorts. All right. I'm going to go unwavering just for more attacks. Just for more attacks. For fun. All right. Oh, we already... Did we already do that? Hold on. Am I losing it? I'm losing it. All right, yeah. So that's that specialization is how they synergize. That specialization is how they synergize with escorts. There we go. Okay, so that's everything. I do need to get gear for Solaak. We're going to do that live on stream, but let's talk about their feats first. They have an interesting set of feats. So we get increased damage all champions. We have compatriots. We've got maneuvers. But then we've got, like, just something out of the blue. Bolt from the blue is the first one, but basically there are 3 feats that give Solaak's base attack a % chance to stun hit enemies for 4 seconds. There's a 10% that's a default, there's a 20% that's a blue, and there's a 40%. So the max chance you can get is 70% if you're using all 3 of those. Thematically, I get that Tempest is like a storm dragon, and there's lightning going on, and there's a stun going on here, but just to be clear, there is nothing in their kit that's built around a stun. So it's just kind of it seems like a thematic, interesting thing, and maybe that's going to come into play with a champion in the future? Because right now, the only champion that would like lots of stuns is Lucius, but Lucius is a magic base attack champion, so you don't put them with Solaak. Okay, speaking of champions to use with Solaak, you could have nerds. I wouldn't recommend it, but nerds in a formation with their ranger has a ranged base attack. Otherwise, you got people like Hitch. Again, they're a support champion, but they do have a ranged base attack portion. Hitch is here. Well, this is Mitch, but this is Hitch. I know it says melee, but if I level them up, More daggers, please. They're gonna turn into a ranged because they're throwing daggers. They're throwing daggers. They do a stab as well. They're kind of both in this mode, but yeah, they become ranged. So Hitch is great. Caddy Bree. Caddy Bree is a ranged attack DPS, member of the Companions of the Hall. And Zorbu. Zorbu is a ranged DPS in slot 12. Zorbu was, OP DPS for a long time. Still real solid. Caddy Bree is right here in slot 7. So these are currently the champions that work as DPS for use with Solaak. There's lots of ranged support champions, though. And we even have a ranged tank in the form of Egbert, who's also in Caddy Bree's slot. So if you want to use Egbert as your tank, you're going to have to use either Hitch or Zorbu as your DPS. Yes, I didn't say nerds. All right. Let me make sure you know no burning things. Okay. Let's talk about gearing up your event champions. Gearing up your event champions. This question gets asked all the time. What's the best way to go about gearing up your event champions? How do I get full epic quickest? Well, first off, that's not a thing. There's no way that you can like order of operations your way through chests to get full epic faster. Epic items are just a random chance to drop. They do have a pity timer, so the first time you get a gold chest that could have an epic for a champion in it, that gold chest has a pity timer of 4. So you are guaranteed, even if you have the worst luck, that you'll only have to open 4 to get an epic. After that, the normal pity timer is 10. Now, an epic could drop more commonly than that, but that's the bad luck protection they put in the game. So to get with the worst luck to get full epic, you'd need to open 54 gold chests for for one of these champions. So there isn't really a way to more efficiently get to full epic. However, there is a way to get to full blue efficiently, and that's what we're going to talk about when we talk about what chest to open. To get to full blue as efficiently as possible, you want to open Electrums first. Remember, Electrums are chests like the one you got from the chest code from today's stream. You open those first. Then you would open any silver chest for the named chest for a champion. Then their gold chests. The reason is the only chest out of those 3 that guarantees any kind of upgrade are the gold chests. Gold chests will guarantee you an upgrade, either to green or to blue. They won't guarantee an epic. Epics are random, but they'll guarantee to either upgrade you from white to green or from green to blue. So what we want to make sure that we're not opening a gold chest to get a green item as an upgrade. We want to open a gold chest and be guaranteed to get a blue or purple, right? Like guaranteed at least a blue, and maybe we get a purple. So we open the Electrums and the Silvers first, because those can only drop, those are primarily going to drop white and greens. They will occasionally drop blues. I have enough here that we're going to get blues out of them. But this way you're filling in the lower levels with the lower chests. And then when you start popping the golds, as long as you have at least green gear at that point, you're only going to need 6 gold chests to get full blue. And full blue is a functional champion. Those are good multipliers. Getting to full epic is a long-term goal. Later, or if you're an end-game player, you can do it right away, like I'll do today. But early on, just getting to full blue is the key, and then you're hopefully getting a lucky epic or 2. You'll get an epic guaranteed in an event, because again, you could get it in 4 chests. You get 1 guaranteed gold chest from each of the variants, and then as long as you do some, you're guaranteed 1 out of 4 free plays for that champion. So you'll get a purple, but getting a 2 or 3 is the luck, right? Now, the reason we're opening Electrum chests first, Electrums can drop a gear for any champion you own, but and if everybody is roughly equally geared, it's just going to distribute it randomly. But whenever you have a champion that has no gear on them, like my Solaak, it kind of creates a bit of a dip, and as it's dropping gear, they will kind of funnel into that dip and then fill up. So it kind of focuses those champions without gear first, and then it will spread out. And then that means that when we open the silvers, they're getting duplicates, which give you item levels, which are more power, and filling in anything the electrums didn't give you. And then the golds are just the gravy on top, right? So we'll open these. I'm probably going to end up with full blues for Solaak right away. There you go. There's all of his blues. Because I had 100, I opened 50. The odds were I was going to get blues. Yep, there. We got all of his gear. We'll open the other 50 just for potential duplicates. He didn't get any, but other champions did. So as you can see, now that he's equally geared with them, it's going everywhere else, right? So now if we go out here and we look at Solaak's gear, we've got a pair of damage all champions items because they are a support champion. We've got an item for compatriots and maneuvers. This is good because remember, compatriots is the main buff and maneuvers buffs it. So they're just giving you lots of power here. Ultimate attack damage and ultimate cooldown items. All right. If we look at it in here, here's what my gear distribution looks like. This is the collection screen. It's not available everywhere. But as you can see, I basically originally got the greens, but this one I only got a blue for, right? Opening up all of the rest of my silvers, I will note I have a lot of chests. I talked at the start of the stream about how you want to open bounty contracts during events. This is what I do. I save up all of my bounty contracts between events. I pop them all during an event. I do lots and lots and lots of free plays to get gear, and this is the kind of stuff you end up with when you're at my level. This guarantees I'm going to have a very high power Solaak when I'm done. That's going to be full epic and have lots of item levels. In fact, what I'm shooting for is an average item level of about 200 or higher. So let's see. Those silvers will have gotten me more item levels. Now my average item level before was 1. Now it's 42. So I've already boosted my average item level. You can see my collection is fleshed out with all of those silvers. Now I'm just looking for epics. And again, 54 is all I need to get full epic on Solaak. So I have more than enough chests to get full epic. There we go. There's all of his epic items, and we'll just open the rest. Oh, I got a shiny. Hey, streamer luck. Shiny cards are basically a 1 in 1,000 chance out of any chest that drops gear. But there's no pity timer, so I just got really lucky. That's lots of luck. I'll take it. Let's see where it landed. Where is it? It's the line around it. So it landed on a damage all champions. I would have preferred on compatriots, but that's fine. It's still a shiny. So there we go. Now I have full gear. My average item level 220. That's still higher than I was aiming for, but that's fine. Oh, that's right. That's because I haven't adjusted my chest yet. We're doing that this time around. So yeah, I'll end up around 230 with him by the end of the event. Okay. That's all of those. Was there anything else? We're going to take a short break. Oh yeah, we need to take our break. We're a little past time. So short musical interlude. We will get to the questions. Mars has been grabbing all the questions. We have about 15 that are stacked up so far. If you have other questions about the event, these 3 champions, or the game or any other champions or whatever about the game, you can ask. Remember, question : before in chat. The song we're gonna have on this break is Ariza's song. This is called "Bard to Get." Now this was early. This was still kind of early on in the Zoom days. They were kind of doing a little duet thing, so the audio at the start cuts in and out, but then it's golden after that. Enjoy.
Welcome to the show. Sit back, relax, Come on, let's go. So why don't you just sit yourself down?
She's evidently cool, a diva and wine. She's all I can think about this whole night, oh yeah. She's playing ball again. She's making me sweat. Gotta let her know she's the best I can get. You can be suave, you can be sweet, you can be cute, but you're just not for me. Sit yourself down and enjoy my show. If you can't calm down, it's time for you to go. I'm just not a type, I'm just not a style, so I'll just enjoy listening for a while, oh yeah. You're playing hard to get, I'll be full of regret. If I don't let her know she's the best of the best. Good and dragon's breath, the angel and white. You're not leaving here with us into the night. You're going this way, and you're in for a fight. You're all by myself, making people upset. Stop treating me like I'm your bodyguard. You're playing bodyguard, ruining my set. Why don't you give me a chance? I'm not yours to romance. Do you make him a friend? Or the scene everywhere? Why are you so sad? I'm not your bodyguard. Interrupt me on stage, I go into a rage and put you in your place with my scorching rays, oh yeah. Wings of fire, feel my eye. Not here to fuel your desire. You're playing bodyguard, you're ruining my set. Why don't you give me a chance? I'm not yours to romance. Do you think I'm a threat? Or the scene everywhere? Why are you so upset? I'm not your bodyguard. Not gonna tell you again. I'm not your bodyguard. Okay, I'll tell you again. I'm not your bodyguard.
Hey, and we're back. One of these days, I want to hear Jason and Jason and Christina do that song together. I think that would be great. We're back with questions. We're going to do the stuff that's on topic first, then I'll hit everything else. It's a general question for events. Wouldn't a 10-day have made more sense than 12 days? Sure, because a 10-day is the version of a week in the Forgotten Realms, and yeah, but you know, that would have meant they would have had to have started on a Friday at noon, and we all know how those patches go, folks. So events start on Wednesdays. Dargo Dynamite, who should I focus on getting chests from the event? They all have blues. Your choice, kind of. Here's the thing. I will say that Lament the Lost is the core item, I think, for Desmond. In my opinion, it's the one that buffs based off the escorts and the dead champions. If you get, you try to get epics until you get that one, then you could go look at other champions. For Solaak, again, compatriots and maneuvers, because they feed into each other. Those two are kind of the targets. And then for Ariza, she's got three. She's kind of got the three core ones, and the others are okay, but not necessarily required right away. So, aiming for kind of the key ones first, and then trying to fill them all in is a good way to go. It's a good way to go. All right. Kenravip, can you offer a strategy for getting Solaak's achievement, Keep Away? Mars comments, honestly, I got mine casually using Solaak in an all-range formation without even trying. I got mine in a formation with just a couple people. with a couple ranged. So I don't know that there's necessarily a strategy other than put Solaak in, use Solaak. I highly recommend pushing deep. You're not going to get knockbacks when you're one-shotting things. So doing a deeper push with Solaak and again, you can use either the left specialization so that he's attacking faster, or if you're at a place where enemies are stacking up on your formation, use that middle specialization because you're AoE knockbacking them all. Also, throw in Tempest ultimates on cooldown. If you have either more ranged champions to throw into support, that's great. But just I think I had Ayla throwing in a knockback as well. So champions that have knockbacks like Ayla and Egbert, those are going to help. Like Penelope has one if you spec for it. Like, so, it's kind of just, I don't know that there's a strategy because I got it without even trying, just by using Solaak in a deep push. But there's, you can up the chances by having more ranged attackers, because that's going to trigger faster attacks for Solaak themselves, and anybody else that's a ranged attacker that has a knockback. Remember, Desmond works for this too. They have a crossbow. As long as the enemies are on the right-hand side of the stream, they're going to be doing knockbacks. And then maybe other knockbackers, right? Some combination of that. I didn't find it, again, because I did it without even attempting to do it. It tells me it's a very doable, easy thing. Dizior, I just hit a wall with Solaak, pushed back the boss all the time. Yeah, that happens. Boss had 88 HP and my bud was E70, so it went on for a long time. Yeah, it's going to go on forever. You'll never be able to pass that. Is there any champion that would benefit from a no-kill grind? No, but what you're doing there is what you've done is kind of, you've set up what we talk about for Azaka farming. You've singled out an enemy on a boss level. I think you could have gone further. Here's the situation when you're talking about knockbackers and your bud. Your bud was, if the boss was E88, you had a higher bud at one point, and it's because things were hitting you. Because that's kind of how this game works. There are champions that have buffs based off things hitting your front line, or some champions trigger based off when the formation is under attack, whatever. Once you get into a knockback chain, you lose those bonuses and you kind of get stuck, and you can back up and do the level over and potentially blow everything up and keep going. But if you don't, you could do an Azaka farm. Azaka farms are a manipulative form of gameplay that are for generating large amounts of gold. I've got guides. There's videos of me doing that on the C&E Games YouTube. That's more what you'd be looking at that point. But no, outside of that, no, there aren't any champions that can do that. There is an interesting situation with Lucius and Havilar in a situation like that where you don't have the damage to kill the boss. A Lucius Havilar combo with Havilar cycling her imps over and over with a familiar will eventually build up enough damage for Lucius to kill that boss. Lucius Havilar, I call it Havilucius. That combination can ramp damage infinitely as long as nothing is attacking your formation. I mean, it can do it with things attacking your formation, but eventually you're going to get to a high enough level where you die real quick. Lost Slime, of the three champs, who would you recommend trying to gear up first or primarily? I don't see one as being major over the other. Like I said, I listed off the items that I think were important for epics. After that, I would say I use Desmond probably more often than I use Ariza. Solaak looks like I'm going to be using them a lot in ranged groups. So, probably those two. Foolish Genius, do champions like Desmond and Russ switching from melee and range cause Solaak to pinball his stacks, or do they always count or never? They most likely currently would only count while they're in the ranged situation, so stacks would go up and down as they switch. I feel like maybe that's a conversation that needs to be had on Dev Insights, asking if they can count for both at all times. Only they're going to know if they're up for that. Foolish Genius 89 again. Do escort abilities count the escort or the slots? The slots. So they're going to count the number of slots taken up by the escort. So if an escort takes up 3 slots, there's 3 stacks. It's that easy. Legend Maker, isn't double time better in general, at least with a familiar on his ultimate? For me, it's situational. Like I said, I tend you do whatever you want. I tend to go all the way with the right hand spec. If you're going to play more actively, you could go left, or if you've got an extra familiar, got to remember, not everybody has tons of familiars. So when I give out advice, I try to give out advice for kind of newer players, and newer players aren't going to have a bajillion familiars. But yeah, it could be. Again, if you feel like you're in a situation where it's better for you to use something else, you have game knowledge, and that I'm talking to people who are, generally speaking, to people who are newer at the game, unless I'm asked a more specific high-level question. Ricardoso, other than Lament the Lost, any other good targets for a potion of polish in Desmond's gear? Arguably, Noble Heart. That's the main buff. That's why I have a golden on it. That's the main buff, so it's his core buff for adjacent stuff. Running with the pack would come after that. So Lament the Lost, because of just the truly outrageous nature of this ability, getting that one gilded, then this, and then that, probably. Which reminds me, I was going to. Oh no, I didn't. Okay, I do have a potion of polish. So with a potion of polish, you can pick anyone you want. What was I going to do for Solaak? I think I was... Oh, this is weird. This is out of order. Why is this out of order, Mars? This is not slot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is super weird. I would go Compatriots? Did I want Compatriots or did I want Maneuvers? I think I wanted Maneuvers. Hold on. These are the things you look at when you're trying to... I think I wanted Maneuvers because it's... Well, Maneuvers max is Compatriots. Well, they're both... we're going Compatriots. I don't understand what's going on with this screen, though. Okay. Boom. Done. Shiny. Happy. People everywhere. All right. The Lurking Rider, has the interaction between Solaak's stun feats been confirmed to be added? Oh, good thing. I was saying it's 70, but it shouldn't be. Oh, I'm bad. I'm a bad person because I tell people percents are multiplied. So it should go... Oh, jeez. The first one would be additive, and the others should be multiplicative. So you're going to start off with whatever the base is. Let's say 10%. Well, is it going to matter which one we start with? It shouldn't, right? 10%. Then you're going to go 20%. Oh, because that's only going to take it up to like 12. And then I don't know. That's a good question. Because there's no base stun. This is why these feeds confuse me. Because there's no base stun in his kit, I think it's got to be additive. I think it's got to be 70%. I think it has to just add up. Because it's when there's a base effect that it's multiplying against that they're all multiplicative. That's a question for Dev Insights. Because this is the first time we've seen them do something like this with a feat that for something that isn't even in the person's kit at all. Yeah, that's a Thursday Dev Insights question. It's a Thursday Dev Insights question, because I feel like it should be additive because for that reason. Mars says they're not really sure how you could even science it out. Yeah, because it's not going to show up anywhere. Because it's not part of their base kit, it's not going to show up as an ability, so there's no way to even look at the math. It's real weird, folks. It's real weird. So yeah, that's definitely a Dev Insights question. In fact, I mean, well, I'll let you. If I don't see it come up, I'll ask it. But all right. Did I? Foolish Genius 89. Do you avoid using Vlania if the path would mean less than if it was just adjacent? I don't generally say this about champions in this game, but in general I avoid using Vlania. But in this specific question, it depends. If you can place Ariza adjacent to the DPS, because here's the thing, Vlania is not a great buffer. So you're comparing we're apples and oranges, because not only do you have to think about how many adjacents you are, and if you're going to be next, if you can put Ariza next to the DPS, you also have to think about, is that person you're putting in the formation other than Vlania a overall better buffer, even if you have less adjacencies? There's a lot going on there. But in general, I just don't use Vlania. But I see where you're going. And yeah, there's a lot of math that goes on. It's not all just about the path and the adjacencies. It has to do with what bonuses you're getting from whoever you're placing in the formation that isn't Vlania. So it's more complicated than just what you're asking. Ricardosa, did you go through all the champion achievements? No, I don't usually talk about them unless someone asks. So we're going to consider this someone asking. So as we've already said, keep away is just stacks of maneuvers. It's additive. They say cumulative. Yeah, you just whatever. Lots of knockbacks. Super easy. In the mood to be quite rude, use Desmond's ultimate twice in 30 seconds while he's adjacent to 6 champions. You can do this in their event formation. You can do this in Sword Coast. You just surround them by 6. Wait until it's almost the full moon, and then hit their ultimate. And then once it's the full moon, the ultimate will be back, hit it again. That's super easy, just because of the way their ultimate works. And for Ariza, defeat 10 bosses while Flaming Wings is active. Now, so you have to use her as your DPS. And you just want to hit the ultimate, like when you load into the boss screen, hit the ultimate so that Flaming Wings is active, kill the boss, and just repeat 10 times. None of these achievements are super difficult. Vicious Kitty, I still don't have all of this season's champions. Oh, wait, we're going to back up. Was that everything? Yes. So general question, all of this season's champions, that's these. Should I use the time gate pieces and unlock them before the season ends? Ones I don't have are Neris and Viconia. Neris and Viconia are kind of at the, like, you've got the 3 that are important. You've got Jaheira, you've got Krydle, and you've got Shandy. I will say I do enjoy Neris as a support, but not like she's more invariance, a support invariance, not like I use her all the time as a support. Viconia, I use more for the fun of the animate dead than anything else. So here's what I'm going to say. I think in general, because they are 3 time gate pieces, you should, if you've got 6, you should grab them both before the season. Well, I think there's another week maybe, but just, yeah, grab them both. Because cheap champion that you're gonna want to have in your collection at some point anyway. but I wouldn't necessarily try to like gear them out if was part of your thinking. But pick them up so that you own them while they're inexpensive. Yes. Let's go back up. Oh, I get it, Mars. It's a low priority. It's a low priority bug. It's just real weird. Onthalon, who else is in the super secret DPS club? Kind of depends on your gear. But generally speaking, Hitch is one of the early members. Paulton, for some reason, even though Paulton doesn't even buff himself, he has some high damage scaling at certain points, and so he's an okay super secret DPS. Penelope, it's in her name, Penel, OP. Yeah, she's got. I think personally, I don't know, I haven't had this confirmed. I think they were designing her to be the DPS for Heroes of the Plains, and then changed it at some point, because she doesn't even have damage of all champions upgrades in her kit at all. So she reads like a pure DPS, and she does DPS. She's actually a solid DPS. I've seen some. Oh, hold on. Actually, I've got this. You know what? I've got this in a spreadsheet. I just need to. Oh, I've got it somewhere else. That's probably easier for me to find quicker. For my account, again, it's gonna do this. A lot of the times we're talking about the gear you have on your account. For my account, also some super secret DPS. Baloth, for some reason, is kind of a mid-tier DPS. I don't know why. If you have invested a lot of item levels into Briv, for some reason well, no, it's just his scaling. Briv can do damage even though he's a tank. Don't know why he shouldn't. Those are also some kind of members of that club. Those are really the only ones that I've tested, put any testing into, for whatever. But usually, what we're talking about is like Hitch. Hitch is usually where we're going when we're trying to bring in somebody who's a support who does a lot of damage. David Sat, how can I get legendary gear? The question is actually how can I drop legendary gear, but I think that was just misphrased. Because I don't think you're an NPC to farm for legendary. But no, in this game you get legendary gear from doing Trials of Mount Tiamat. So you do runs for Trials of Mount Tiamat. The rewards you get are scales. You take those scales over to the legendary forge and to a champion who has epic gear. And then you pay to upgrade. They broke the forge. I'm just noticing this. Folks, they broke the forge. They reverted the change. This shouldn't be the current cost for upgrading. Mars, do they know this? This is a huge deal. Did they know that it's... And I know exactly how they broke it, too. Sorry, folks. Hold on. They broke it right here with added the cost reduction timer back to the Legendary Reforged dialogue. They added it. They added that whole thing to just forging. Yours looks normal. Mine does not. And I just started my game this morning, so I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's overriding. Ooh, maybe it's overriding. Regardless, they broke this. When they added the Reforge, Trainer 1, have you reforged an item recently? That's the question. Because I just reforged an item yesterday. If you have not reforged, it probably looks normal. But if you reforge an item, because I just didn't, I've got this reduction. This should be the reforge reduction. This should only show up here. And instead it's showing in the forge. Anyway. So I was gonna forge an item, but now I don't wanna overpay. Um. Hmm. I don't know. This is that weird thing where some people's game gets bugged and others isn't, I guess. So anyway, you come here, you take your scales, you forge an item. It costs less than 2,000 though, is the problem. So I'm not going to demonstrate it for you, but you forge an item with the scales, which is what I've done to all of my champions except Solaak because I just finally got him gear. So that's how you get legendaries in this game. They're not drops. They're not drop loot. Wow. Why is it broken just for me? This is so rude. Legend Maker. It seems that champions whose attack animations show them moving from their spot no longer count as adjacent during that time. That shouldn't be. I've noticed this on Human, Whittle, etc. Next to someone like Briv who jumps around a lot, they lose then regain one adjacency stack. That's definitely sounds like a bug. That shouldn't be happening. Submit a ticket with a formation that demonstrates that happening, or the champions that you see that happening with. They should, even when they jump out to attack, they should still be counting as in their slot. Otherwise, that's a huge damage drop for a lot of champions. So I would, yeah, Legendary Maker, I would just submit that as a ticket. Explain like you did here what's going on with this question. Like basically put what you put in here into your ticket. It doesn't really matter how big of an impact it can have. It's a bug. It's not working the way it should. Yeah. I don't know. I would just, if you're running into that issue, submit a ticket. Because you shouldn't be running. Just like me with the Forge right now, obviously other people aren't seeing it. I'm still going to submit a ticket. Whenever you see something wrong in your game, submit a ticket. Doesn't matter if other people are seeing it or not. Because clearly, folks, you may not see it in your game, but clearly there's a problem here. Freeman, today my Briv gem farm rate dropped. So I wanted to ask, I never really checked manually before, when should the gems from skip bosses be rewarded? I didn't get them after the boss skip and didn't get them after the run reset either. Ooh. I don't know the answer to that question because I don't track it that close. Again, this is one of those, if you see the game doing something that it shouldn't do, submit a ticket. Yeah. Zigladine, I'm thinking to use my first potion of polish. Any advice? Would Humans or Sentries speed items be top choices? So you're close. Your thinking is close. Sentry wouldn't be a top choice. Human and Briv would be a top choice. So we're looking at Human gold, the rainbow eggs. So they're slot 4. It would be what you would shiny. That's their speed item. And Briv also slot 4, Theodinorax. Shiny. So those are their speed items. Humans can cap. So getting that shinied helps you get to the cap quicker. Brivs just needs lots of item levels. So getting a shiny on that one is a good thing. And yeah, like Mars put in chat, Sentry is a good choice, just not a top choice. Sentry does have a speed item that caps. It is her slot 3, the Flowering Hair Vines. Virgil also has a slot 5 that caps. The Thrilling Memoirs. So there are speed champions who are good targets for that, but the top targets are Briv and Human. Because they're the ones that are going to need they either have the best speed ability comparatively for the item levels, or they have a greater need for lots of item levels. All right. Oh, no. Smoking one. What is this Lucius Havilar combo you speak about? Do they need specific specs or feats? They do, yes. I guess we're going to... I've already had conversations with the devs about this, so I don't know how long this is going to remain in effect, so I feel comfortable talking about it. Because it's really... it's really situational. You can't do it everywhere. There's reasons why it isn't always going to work, yada, yada, yada. Okay. But... it is, well, I should say your ability to ramp damage infinitely is requires other things than just them. But here we go. Lucius is a DPS from the Heroes of Erois. What we're dealing with here when we're talking about kind of their ability to infinitely stack damage is we're talking about I was there. Arcane Chromat Cold. So enemies damaged by Ray of Frost are slowed by 50% for 10 seconds and take 400% more damage from Ray of Frost for each slow, stun, or root affecting them, stacking multiplicatively. So normally, slows, stuns, or roots wear off in this game. So they're only available for a short period of time, which is why the devs felt comfortable stacking this multiplicatively. Okay. The shenaniganry here is that Havilar's ultimate for heroic sacrifice flings an imp out, does damage in an AoE, and slows all affected enemies. It stacks with itself, and it never wears off. So you park an imp here, or park a familiar here, you choose Speedy Sacrifice. The imps just blow themselves up over and over on an enemy that you can't defeat because you don't have enough damage. And the slow starts, it gets a slow, and then when it does it again, it gets another slow, and then it gets another slow, and it gets another slow, and it gets another slow. And for every slow, Lucius gets 400% multiplicatively. So Lucius's damage just starts to ramp up, and ramp up, and ramp up, continuously until you kill that enemy. I like to put this with Lingering Chill because that's yet another crowd control effect. So that combination lets you, if as long as the enemy doesn't get to you, and if it's only a single enemy, or you've manipulated a small tight grouping of enemies slowly away, like with the knockbacks. So you could combine this with like an AoE Solaak, or you can combine this with an Ashara ultimate to knock them all back. As long as they're melee enemies and not touching your party, because that infinitely slow will eventually freeze them and they will not be able to move at all, you can stay alive infinitely and you can do damage infinitely, and your damage will ramp up until it is high enough to kill that enemy. Then you will move forward. If you ever deal with a ranged enemy, you're going to be taking damage from them the whole time. So that's a problem. And that could stop your progress, obviously. Eventually, if you're pushing, eventually you get to a point where those those ranged enemies are just going to nuke your party. But there's other shenanigans you can play with this for that kind of stuff. Yeah. This infinite loop of without Lucius, this infinite slow from Havilar is what we use to manipulate Azaka farming, to take a single enemy and freeze it somewhere on the screen. Yeah, so this is something that generally, is done a lot, but usually for Azaka farming. And as Lurking Riker said, I think they're okay with that. I think they're okay with that mess up. If it ever gets fixed, Azaka farming will be impacted. Not necessarily. There's ways to fix this that wouldn't impact Azaka. If you just said the slow wears off after 5 minutes, that's more than enough to stack up and freeze an enemy and to keep it frozen for long enough for you to Azaka farm it while preventing infinite stacks for Lucius. So they have ways they could fix it if they want to fix it. I just don't know how high a priority is because it's very niche. It's very, very, very niche. Yeah. Can this be stacked with an invincible? Yeah. So I did this on stream January 1st. This is why I know how this works. I called it the Great Wall of Havalucius because somebody nicknamed Salisa Narak the Great Wall because there's an interaction. There's a shenanigan there where against melee enemies you can make Salise invulnerable. And then you stack it with Havalucius, hence the Great Wall of Havalucius. And if you're only dealing with melee enemies in an adventure, you can go all the way to 2,000. It just takes a very long time. But there is only one, to my knowledge, there is only one regularly accessible free play in the game that you can do that with. So it's not as big of a deal. But it is a problem, right? It is a problem, but, it's not a high priority problem. Any questions? Which one? I had to go find it. You can too. I will tell you this shenanigan exists. I am not going to direct you to it because I don't want the complaints from the devs going, really, Gaarawarr? Really? I've told you plenty. You can figure out the rest on your own. Yeah. Do we have any other questions that I missed? Did I miss any other questions? I'm not seeing anything. So, I guess we could probably just wrap up. That was all of our questions today, unless anybody has something last minute. No more streams this weekend on this channel. However, an hour or so from now, I will be streaming on my channel, twitch.tv/Gaarawarr. Come say hi. Toss me a follow. I do stream Idle Champions sometimes, but today is Final Fantasy Saturday. We're playing Final Fantasy VI, the Pixel Remaster. I don't know how much left we have in the game. I feel like we're in the second half of the game. But I don't think we're anywhere near finishing it. So, it's a good time. Come hang out. Streams for the C&E Games account will return on Monday with Idle Champions Presents Fury of the Black Rose. Right after that stream on my channel, I do Idle Chatter about Idle Champions. We play some Idle Champions. If you have more questions, you can stop by there. I stream Idle Champions on my channel on Mondays and Wednesdays. Saturdays, Final Fantasy Saturday. Tuesdays, right now, I'm doing a playthrough of Cuphead. So if you want to see me suck at a game like I've never sucked before, stop by. I'm real bad at it. We're making progress. We finished the first two islands, and we're going to start the third one on Tuesday. Plume Bob, is there any sort of index to the Gaarawarr's Guide Twitch videos by topic? No, they're just kind of all listed on the C&E Games YouTube. They're all listed in the order I think in the order I created them. So this tutorial show ends up on the Twitch in a week or so after we do it as permanent, tutorials. But I think it's just in that order. Yeah. How long has Final Fantasy VI you've been at it a while? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to it. Yeah. All right, folks, we're gonna head out. The song on the way out, because there are no, sadly there's no song for Desmond or Solaak. Bardic Inspiration doesn't do Champion song. Well, Bardic Inspiration doesn't exist anymore, but it didn't do Champion songs for Desmond. So we're gonna go in the way back machine to my favorite Fleetswake Champion song. This is Zorbu's song, "Hate Makes You Cold." Enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks.
Sloop so tall, never thought that one mistake could take away it all. I live a ranger's life but never heard the call. I will avenge my family until the day I fall. Bodies hit the floor, my temper short, and my list of fools is long. I'll cleanse the underdog of all who's done me wrong. You grow. A ranger's life is right for me. It's more precious than your gold, but I trade it all away to just go home. I feel the emptiness flowing through my veins. It's all you're left with late at night, when your hatred holds the reins. But I still could feel an ocean made of pain. Past so far behind, it'll never be the same. Every by my side when I'm putting